your women in crypto. I'd like to just, you might just touch on that, please.
Yeah, so it actually goes back to when I left the government. When I was in the government, actually, a lot of us, the prosecutors, agents, analysts, a lot of us in the government in crypto were women. And so we would look around, we had this like whole group, and it just seemed like, oh, there's lots of women in crypto. And then I left and went to a tech company that happened to do blockchain analytics, but it was a tech company, a software as a service, a SaaS company. And if you looked around tech and financial services, the way they treated women, the way that the industry seemed to treat women, you would have thought there were no women. But I was seeing them every day working at companies, building things, running things. And so I said, we've got to do this better, where there's a lot of women who are working in this industry who need to be profiled, who need to be included. And it's not intentional. It's just the nature of, if you're not intentionally inclusive, you'll be unintentionally exclusive. And I always tell this joke or like make this example of like, if I was coming to Poland and I said to you, hey, Roy, I'm coming to Poland, would you mind throwing a dinner party? Would you invite a bunch of strangers, or would you invite people that you were comfortable with, who you knew wouldn't embarrass you, who wouldn't steal your silver, right? Like, you're going to invite your friends. And that's kind of how the world works. And it's how industries and markets work. And so if you don't purposely broaden your circle, if you don't intentionally think, who's not at the table? We don't have any women. We don't have any people of color. Like, it's just a bunch of white dudes. No offense. Like, statistically, it tends to be a bunch of white dudes, right? If you don't do that, or even like, frankly, if it's just a room full of Americans deciding everything for the world, you don't want a slightly different viewpoint. You don't want somebody from a different, you don't want any diversity. And I think that's the thing is, I started the association to say there are thousands of women in this industry. And if we aren't intentionally inclusive towards them, if we don't realize that we need to do a little bit of work to make sure that they're included, you're going to build the same crappy system that traditional finance did, which was built by a bunch of men, largely white men, largely British men, right? Or like wherever they were from, largely men, largely white men. And fine, but every single study, all data points to things being built better with diversity of thought and experience. So we just wanted to make crypto, blockchain, and Web3 better by being more inclusive to women as an industry. And so we do all kinds of networking events, we do educational events, we do an advocacy program where we have an Unmantle Your Panel initiative where we get male allies to pledge not to speak on all male panels. We have conferences that pledge to have at least 30% women or no mantles. We have a global speaker directory of women to make it easier to find the women. And it's just all driving towards, we could just do a little bit better at including women, because you just don't want everything run by the same person, right? And we just happen to focus on women, but there's a lot of incredible organizations that we partner with that do LGBTQ and people of color and, Black women in blockchain, and lots of really good organizations. But the idea is just like, look, if you're sitting around the table, some people just don't notice when it's a bunch of white men making decisions for everybody else. And those of us that are having our decisions made for us tend to notice.